With over 1,000 episodes, One Piece stands at the peak of long-running anime as the undisputed king. Love it or hate it, you have to admit that it is the example of what shonen manga is trying to achieve. Amazing story, incredible longevity, and marketable characters. But how can one show consistently stay on top? With the recent enough success of the One Piece live-action show, the more recent announcement of the upcoming East Blue remake, and the even more recent adaptation of Egghead Island, Jesus, One Piece fans are devouring right now. I figured now would be as good a time as any to go back and rewatch all of One Piece. Yes, all of it. All the way back to episode 1. The journey of 1,000 episodes begins with the first step, and for the sake of my own sanity, let's start with Arlong Park as the great prophecy foretold. Arlong Park is peak One Piece because it encapsulates almost all of what One Piece has to offer, so much so that you can see its influence throughout the entire series as a whole. Alabasta, Arlong Sandcastle. Enies Lobby, Arlong Precinct. Wano, Arlong Haunted Mansion. You get the point. The reason for that is because it defined who the Straw Hat Pirates were as a unit, and as individuals, as well as foreshadowed the main messages of the show at large through both the antagonist Arlong and the protagonist Luffy. Here's what I mean. Starting off with everybody's favorite three-sword samurai, Zoro starts off the journey with lofty ambitions of finding the world's strongest swordsman and defeating him in combat, only to be literally swatted like a fly. After that tasty ass-whooping, Zoro pledges his undying loyalty to his captain and future pirate king, vowing to never taste defeat so delicious ever again. Before the battle, the gang finds out Nami stole their treasure and their ship. Zoro says leave her, she's more trouble than she's worth. But the captain insists that he doesn't want anyone but Nami as their navigator. So, captain's orders, Zoro heads off to find Nami, with a gaping wound in his chest because he's just that metal. Zoro is the first of the crew to be captured by Nami and Arlong. He quickly realizes he's in no danger because he sees that Nami doesn't have any conviction in her eyes. He sees she has no resolve and decides to test his theory. When she saves him, he tells her to stop pretending like she's cool, which is a fun little bit of deja vu because Luffy told her the same thing back when they were fighting Buggy. It shows that they can see she's pushing herself, so she doesn't have to admit that she's scared, pretending to be in control when in reality she's terrified of getting caught. Nami and Arlong head out, and Zoro decides that he's bored and takes out the entire enemy camp. You know the fishmen hyped up to be at least 5 times stronger than a human? Zoro beats like 20 of them, by himself, off screen, and just leaves. Turns out the fishmen aren't that strong. Nami's village of old men, women, and children just suck ass. Sorry Genzo, try doing a few more push-ups next time. Zoro regroups with the rest of the boys and is shocked to find out that Nami killed Usopp while he was out looking for them. With the apparent betrayal of Nami and the looming threat of Arlong, it seems like the best idea is to get out of Dodge. That's not up to him. That's up to his captain. And the captain wants to do nothing. Okay, cool. I guess while we're waiting for Luffy to get his head out of his ass, Zoro represents strength within the Straw Hats. Not just muscle, but character, unwavering loyalty, and an unshakable will. Even as the first mate, Zoro hasn't been following Luffy for very long. He doesn't have a deep bond with Luffy, nor does he share his dream of becoming Pirate King. But what he does have is his word. His word that he will follow Luffy on his adventure, and that he will never lose another fight. A promise he has kept even now through his sheer determination. Because Zoro doesn't fear death, he fears losing. Losing his honor, losing his ability to keep his word. Because once that's gone, how is he supposed to face Kuina? Someone who died before getting to see her dream through to the end. Zoro fights because he believes the promises he makes defines who he is. He will be the world's greatest, or die trying. Embodying honor and perseverance, Zoro is always ready to put his body on the line to fight for his crew. Sporting scars that literally make his enemies shake with fear, the immortal second in command earns his reputation by cutting down his enemies, clearing the path for his captain. And that legend starts here, at Arlong Park.
不安にさせたかよ。俺が世界一の剣豪にくらいならねえとお前が困るんだよな。俺はもう二度と負けねえからあいつに勝って大剣豪になる日まで絶対にもう俺は負けねえ。勇敢なる海の戦士になるためだ。
Moving on to someone less flashy but no less important, Usopp is a self-proclaimed legendary sniper of the group, even though he's never used a gun before. Really, he only uses a slingshot, and even then he's only kinda good with it. But hey, his dad is a sniper that runs with Shanks, so that must mean something, right? Although, at this point we just know Shanks as a pirate, not an emperor yet, so even then that doesn't mean much. Usopp comes from Seer Village, a town so boring that he can literally scream pirate attack at the top of his lungs for hours and only elicit mild annoyance as a reaction. Usopp joins the Straw Hats in search of adventure, and the courage to stand on his own 2 feet without running away. But he has a long way to go. Usopp lacks a lot of things. Courage, strength, a tangible dream or life goal to keep him going, but he does have one thing in abundance. Self-awareness. Which is probably the worst thing someone could say about you. You see that guy over there? He's not brave or strong or cool, but he sure is aware that he sucks. No, but seriously, Usopp is smart and loyal to his friends. His fear may get the better of him sometimes, but that's why he went out to sea in the first place, to overcome that weakness and become a brave warrior. But it is hard to do that when you're surrounded by incredible people with ambition and talent. Usopp is the second person to meet up with Nami after she defects. He is captured by Arlong after stopping him from destroying a village and tries to distract him long enough for Zoro and the boys to show up. Nami sees him and decides to unalive him before he can cause her any more trouble. But turns out that was all an act, so she could let him escape. Having no idea what just happened, Usopp somehow makes it back to the boys, just in time for Nojiko, Nami's sister, to give out some much-needed exposition. But Luffy is, for some reason, uninterested in hearing Nami's backstory, or at least doesn't want to hear it from someone else. Usopp may travel with the Straw Hats, but he isolates himself from them by putting everyone else above him. They are amazing, and he is not. Zoro is a talented swordsman. Nami is a brilliant navigator. Even the new guy, Sanji, is an accomplished chef. He has nothing. But it is the things that he lacks that motivate him to strive to be better. In the battle against Arlong's crew, Usopp is constantly fighting the urge to run away. But it is the thought that if he runs away now, he will be betraying the trust his friends have in him that keeps him in the fight. He fights an enemy he has no chance of beating because he knows that if he doesn't at least try, then he has no right to set foot on their ship. And you know what? He actually wins. He beats one fishman out of 100, but he does win. Usopp isn't a fighter, he's barely a sniper, but he is a member of the Straw Hat crew, and for now, that's enough.
守るウソップ海賊団のキャプテンで俺は勇敢なる海の戦士だ村の門には指にポンってさせて絶対に俺が守るんだ俺はオールブルーを見つけるために
Sanji is the new chef of the Straw Hat Pirates. After the events at the Baratier, Sanji set sail in search of the All Blue, a sea that contains every fish from every sea in the world in perfect harmony. With eternal gratitude in his heart towards the man who saved his life and raised him to be the man he is today, head chef Zeph, Sanji finally heads off after the dream he's had since he was a kid. Sanji is the new hire, and it shows in a how did they survive without him kind of way. Not only does he do the cooking and the cleaning, but he also once upon a time took care of problems that most of the Straw Hats don't usually deal with. Sanji might be one of the monster trio right now, but back then he had a different job from Luffy and Zoro, namely bailing them out when they were in trouble. But the real difference between him and Zoro, and more importantly him and Luffy, is that he is very emotionally intelligent. He sees when people need help and literally dives in to save them without a second thought, at the cost of his own safety if need be. He was the only person who saw that Nami was crying when she was running away. He was the only person, besides Luffy, who still believed in her despite everyone saying she was a traitor. You could say that he is just saying that because she's a girl, but I believe he would have extended the same kindness to his fellow crewmates if they were in the same position. And if not, I guess we're all lucky Nami's a girl then. Sanji is similar to Usopp in that he lacks self-esteem in very specific ways. For reasons I can't get into in this video, just know that Oda is the GOAT. Sanji was robbed of the things that were supposed to lift him up. Zeph was the first adult that treated him with anything even resembling love. The sacrifices that Zeph made to save Sanji's life shaped his perception of what love is for better and for worse. Zeph saved Sanji because they both had the same dream. Zeph wanted Sanji to continue on his path no matter the cost, so he could fulfill both of their ambitions someday. But because Sanji puts others above himself, he chose to spend the new life given to him by constantly seeking the approval of a savior. He would sacrifice his own dreams to make sure that the Baratier would be successful, because he didn't want Zeph's sacrifices to be in vain. But in so doing, he guaranteed that they would be. It is only after being rejected by the cooks at the Baratier that Sanji could see that he was wrong, and that his place is on the Going Merry, heading into the Grand Line in search of the All Blue to fulfill the promise he made to his mentor. One quick thing that's not strictly Arlong related, rewatching all of One Piece as an adult, I love being able to appreciate new things I noticed about the characters that never would have occurred to me otherwise. For example, it makes so much sense that Sanji is a chef, but also the pseudo-spy of the group. I've worked in kitchens for a long time, so believe me when I say, communication in the kitchen is overrated. Find someone like Sanji that does things without being asked before they become an issue. With Baroque Works, he bought them time by pretending to be Mr. 3. In Enies Lobby, he found the switch to raise the bridge so everyone could escape. The man is a certified psychic because he's worked in a kitchen his whole life and developed an eye that can see the bigger picture. He moves in silence to handle the things his friends don't even think about. That's how he earns the name Stealth Black, although he never wanted it in the first place. With a burning heart and flaming feet, Sanji is always ready to risk it all for the people he loves, just like his father before him.
私は世界地図を書くため
Nami is incredible, as a character and as a person. The few things we know about Nami prior to Arlong Park is that she is a liar and a thief. She hates pirates, but she is not above working with them. She is a talented navigator and is passionate about map making. She's brought onto the crew to help them make it to the Grand Line, but suddenly stabs him in the back at quite literally the worst possible time. She runs off to return to the pirate she was actually working for with the treasure that she stole from Luffy, revealing that she is every bit as cold-blooded and heartless as she says she is. But something isn't right. She saves Zoro when he tries to drown himself. He pretends to kill Usopp so he can get away. She cries when Luffy refuses to leave. None of it makes any sense until Nojiko comes to explain what's been happening to Nami's home. Nami and Nojiko were orphaned by war and picked up by their mother, a former marine named Bellemere. Their relationship was tense, but they were family, until Arlong came. He raided the village, demanding a set amount of money from every household per person. Bellemere was already strapped for cash and couldn't pay for both her and Nami and Nojiko, so she made a choice. She decided that no matter what would happen, she would be their mother. So instead of paying for herself, she declared Nami and Nojiko her daughters and paid for them, leaving her unable to settle her new debt with the Fishman pirates. Arlong takes this opportunity to make an example of her. Once he sees that Nami is a gifted mapmaker, he strikes a deal with her. If she can manage to get 100 million berries, he will allow her to buy Kokonashi village back, no questions asked. But in the meantime, Nami will make maps for him. Nami keeps the deal a secret from the village to stop them from getting involved and hurting themselves. She loses complete faith in anyone from her village and decides to take on the responsibility of protecting them herself. The only person she trusts with this information was her sister, who sees that being with the Straw Hats has changed Nami for the better. She entrusts them with this knowledge to help them understand what Nami is going through and to hopefully show them that Nami didn't betray them, but that they should leave the island all the same. Bellemere's death leaves Nami with many unresolved traumas. No shit, Sherlock, but let me finish. The loss for innocence, overindulgence of money, and the pathological need to lie, cheat, and steal in order to survive. Nami loses her innocence in the sense that she shuts herself off from her friends and family in order to protect them herself at the age of 10. This man murdered her mother literally minutes ago, and the only thing she can think of is how to protect her village. Her peaceful life shattered before her eyes. She throws away her faith in others to save them with the only thing she believes actually can, the almighty berry. Bellemere's death is the reason why Nami is obsessed with money. Bellemere had a choice to make: abandon her daughters to their fate by paying for herself and hoping they never get caught by Arlong, or protect her daughters by paying for them and die so they could live. We know why she chose the latter, because she truly loved her daughters more than life itself, but it's not so simple for Nami. If Bellemere had money, Nami wouldn't have to steal at all. She would have books, paper, all the things she needed to be a real map maker. None of that matters right now, because most importantly, if Bellemere had money, she would still be alive. Bellemere didn't die because she was weak. She died because she was poor. She wasn't allowed to choose the future she wanted for her daughters because she was poor. That realization is the reason why even after the events of Arlong Park, Nami still collects as much money as she can, to maintain her ability to choose for herself. Bellemere's final wish was for her daughters to live on, to survive no matter the cost. That is a pure wish for a mother to have, but for someone like Nami, who has to constantly fight in the dangerous worlds of pirates, that is a curse. To survive on your own at sea, you have to be heartless, ruthless, cold-blooded, and Nami isn't. Even after all these years of stealing and fighting and lying just to survive and make money to save her family, she's still just that little girl from Kokonashi village who just happens to have sticky fingers. She's not a master thief. She's just a kid who hasn't been caught yet. But that changes when she meets Luffy.
どうした手が震えてるぞ。中途半端な覚悟で海賊を相手にしようとするからそうなるんだ。覚悟って何よ。人を簡単に殺してみせること、それが海賊の覚悟。違う。自分の命を懸ける覚悟だ。
Captain of the Straw Hat Pirates and future Pirate King Monkey D. Luffy wants one thing and one thing only: to be free. Becoming the king of the pirates has been his dream since he was a child, and he will do whatever it takes to make it happen. Luffy has eaten the gum gum fruit, a devil fruit that turned him into a rubber man, which means he can do this, and even this. It is also implied that he doesn't feel pain from normal attacks that don't pierce his skin, which I find hilarious. Kinda hypocritical of you to be like, just stop being afraid, forehead, when you literally haven't been hurt since you were 7, but okay Luffy, whatever you say. Luffy is carefree and always up for a party. He's excitable, goofy, and an overall weirdo, but he is a good person. What separates Luffy from his crew of misfits and weirdos is that he is more than happy to admit his faults. Where his friends would struggle by themselves to put up a front of strength, he is always ready to accept that he isn't the man for the job on most things. That's why he got a crew in the first place, so he doesn't die at sea, which he almost did, multiple times. That courage to ask for help from his crew also motivates them to be better versions of themselves. If someone like Luffy, who can basically perform miracles but can't even feed himself, asks you for help, it makes you want to be stronger too. Zoro becomes a better right-hand man, Nami becomes a better navigator, Sanji becomes a better cook, and Usopp becomes a worse liar.
What?
Luffy first meets Nami during his battle with Buggy. She's pretending to be on Buggy's side so he doesn't kill her, but Luffy can see in her eyes that she's hesitating. Luffy is an expert at looking through people because he focuses on their actions instead of their words. In that single moment of hesitation, Luffy decides to trust Nami with his life, not like he had much choice, and is rewarded again and again, up until she seemingly betrays his trust, steals his ship, and kills his crewmate. Even after everything that's happened, the lies she told him, the accusations being made against her, Luffy is unfazed. In fact, he doesn't even seem concerned at all. He says, "I'm not leaving this island, and I don't care what's been happening on it either." When Nojiko comes to explain why Nami is doing this, Luffy says he's not interested. At first, it seems callous of him to just ignore his friend's life story, until you realize where he's going. He doesn't want to hear someone else's interpretation of what they think is going on in Nami's head. He wants to see it for himself. He finds Nami, broken and alone, crying and screaming in the road as she stabs the symbol of her enslavement on her arm. Her world devastated as everything she's fought for is swallowed by the dust. When he stops her from hurting herself anymore, she attacks him, throwing sand and screaming at him to leave her alone. But he won't budge. And then, she finally asks him. This scene is timeless. No matter how many times I see it, I still get goosebumps. The reason for that is because it's so simple. Here, we finally see Nami at the end of her rope. She has nothing left to give, but she still feels the need to fight. Feels the need to push everyone she loves away to fight by herself. And when even that will to fight against her fate is burned out, she gives in to her weakness and finally asks for help. Luffy walks past her and literally explodes with, "Of course I will," because he was waiting for her to ask, which is what I will always love about Luffy. What separates him from other shonen protagonists is that he doesn't jump at the chance to fight evil, especially if he's not directly involved. Unlike Deku from My Hero Academia, Luffy isn't a hero and he doesn't want to be. Luffy describes a hero as someone who shares his food with people so everyone can eat fairly, but I think a more apt description of a hero in this situation would be someone who arbitrarily imposes what they think is right on other people. If Luffy came in and kicked Arlong's ass whenever he wanted, he would be spitting in the face of Nami and everything she sacrificed. Even if he doesn't know why she's fighting, he knows that she is and that it wouldn't be right to disrespect that. When Nami finally lets Luffy in, he explodes with anger and frustration because he's been waiting to help her this whole time, but didn't want to get in her way. He's a pirate who values the freedom to choose to fight your own battles, even at the cost of your own life, as we saw with Zoro versus Mihawk. That good-hearted, well-meaning, but ultimately naive need for permission to fight eventually evolves into a desire for the people around him to develop a will to fight for themselves, as we see with both Vivi and Momonosuke later on in the story. He clashes with Vivi because he wants her to recognize the strength of the friends she says she trusts, compared to later on when he flat out refuses to help Momonosuke unless he can prove that he is willing to fight. Luffy finally goes to fight Arlong, but not because Arlong is evil. Luffy does not care about avenging Bellamir's death or saving the village from tyranny, because ultimately it doesn't matter what happened to Nami or this village or even this whole island. His friend asked for help, and he's going to help her.
Nami! お前は俺の仲間だ!
生まれ持った魚人の力を天人間を魚人にひれ伏す生き物として命を授けた。お前らは下等動物なんだ。生まれた瞬間からすでに次元が違うんだよ。お前と俺の本当の違いを。
なあ、見せてみろ。負けねえよ、お前なんかに。俺は海賊王になる男だ。
Aside from the main characters finding their own stories, the antagonists of Arlong Park also highlight the overarching themes of the story as a whole. Arlong was cruel, but he also had people he cared for. When Zoro cut down his men, he was visibly distraught. Arlong also clearly had a vendetta against humans that ran deeper than just wanting to kill them. He wanted to enslave them, make them weak, make them realize that they were beneath him. This irrational hatred of humans and the need to be superior to them wouldn't be fully explored until much later, but it was clear from the beginning that Arlong Park was different from the other arcs that had happened before it. Where the previous islands felt like episodic, disparate stories in an otherwise fun, lighthearted cartoon, Arlong Park showcases the depth that One Piece would come to be known for in its main characters and especially its villains. Arlong doesn't commit evil for the fun of it. He has clear goals and allies that want to help him achieve it. He was also extremely manipulative and intelligent. He took over a village through just enough force to ensure a steady flow of revenue, secured a brilliant navigator/mapmaker, and exploited the corruption of the government to remain in power for 8 years before the Straw Hats came. Arlong really doesn't get enough credit for how well thought out his plan was, probably because he was beaten up by a 17-year-old child with stretchy arms and extendo fingers, but hey, happens to the best of us. That's a consistent pattern between all the major villains in One Piece, that they all got their asses kicked by a magical crackhead. And also that they are all highly intelligent and aware of the world that they live in, that the world is unfair and cruel, and that the ones who stand on top are the cruelest and most importantly, the smartest. Every single antagonist sets out to sea in search of something. They have their own adventures and come to their own conclusions about their place in the world. Soon enough, they sacrifice their freedom for money, power, and influence. And they prosper for a while, until Luffy comes to tear them from their thrones. Because it doesn't matter how much money they have, how much influence they acquire, or how many people they have under their command. If they don't have the will to be free, they don't have what it takes to beat Luffy.
俺はモンキー D ルフィ。お前らを超えて 海賊王になる男だ。
Arlong Park is peak One Piece because it is definitive One Piece. It shows us in no uncertain terms who each of the Straw Hat Pirates are and what they are capable of, as well as who their enemies are and what makes them so dangerous. It planted the themes of found family, freedom, and faith as seeds we all watched grow over the course of literal decades into the incredible, vibrant tapestry it is defined as today. It is a timeless classic and a brilliant start to a journey over 26 years in the making, and that's what I love about it. Peace.